Have you ever sat down to study, opened your book with good intentions, and then, almost without realizing it, found that 5 minutes later, your mind is already somewhere else, scrolling through your phone, replaying a conversation from yesterday, worrying about the future, or remembering things that do not matter in this moment at all? And then, quietly, but painfully, a familiar feeling arises, the feeling of guilt. The inner voice that asks, why can't I focus like others? What is wrong with me? And if that question feels close to your heart, if it has followed you through school, work, or even personal growth, then let me say this gently and clearly before we go any further. You are not broken. Your mind is not weak, and you are not failing at life. You are simply human. And in the teachings of Buddhism and mindfulness, the wandering mind has never been treated as an enemy to defeat, but as a natural expression of a mind that has never been taught how to rest. The Buddha observed that the mind moves the way water flows, always towards what feels pleasant, meaningful, or emotionally rewarding. And this is why you can watch your favorite movie for hours without effort, why you can become completely absorbed in music, sports, gaming, or conversations you care about, and yet struggle deeply to study for 10 minutes. Not because you lack discipline, but because the mind is doing exactly what it has always done, which is following interest and meaning. And this reveals something important and often misunderstood. The true problem is not distraction itself. The problem is disconnection, because concentration naturally follows interest, and where the heart goes, the mind follows, a principle that aligns perfectly with Buddhist psychology as well as modern neuroscience. This is why forcing focus through pressure, shame, or self-criticism almost never works in the long run, because the mind does not open through force, it opens through understanding. And instead of asking, how do I make myself focus? A gentler and far more effective question is, how can I cultivate meaning in what I am doing? Because when meaning appears, focus begins to arise naturally, quietly, without struggle. And this meaning does not have to be dramatic or inspirational. It can be simple and honest, such as asking yourself, how can this study serve my life? Or who will I become by learning this? Not who you must impress, not what society expects, but who you are slowly shaping yourself into through small daily choices. And when that question is asked sincerely, the heart softens and the mind begins to stay. However, one of the greatest obstacles people face on this path is unrealistic expectation. The belief that concentration must be long, perfect, and uninterrupted to count as progress, when in Buddhist practice, progress has never been measured in hours, but in moments. Because even 10 seconds of true presence is 10 seconds of awakening, 10 seconds of a mind that has come home. And if you focused for 10 seconds today, when yesterday you could not focus at all, that is not failure, that is growth. And instead of criticizing yourself for losing focus again, you might gently say, this is enough for now. Because kindness towards yourself is not weakness or laziness, it is wisdom. And without kindness, no lasting discipline can grow. The Buddha never taught avoidance through fear or control through punishment. He taught awareness through understanding. And this is why when you look at what distracts you, your phone, your thoughts, your emotions, the invitation is not to judge them or fight them, but to observe them with curiosity, asking not, why am I so weak, but what is my mind reaching for right now and why? And if your phone pulls your attention, gently putting it away is not an act of punishment, but an act of care, like guiding a tired child back to bed. And this is mindfulness in action, not as an abstract idea, but as a living practice in everyday life. It is also important to remember that concentration is not something you either have or do not have, like a personality trait fixed at birth, but something you train patiently, imperfectly, over time. And every single time your mind wanders and you bring it back, without anger, without drama, that moment is meditation. Not failure, not weakness, but practice. And the path is built not by never wandering, but by returning again and again, because each return strengthens the habit of presence. A simple and powerful way to support this training is to pause before you study, even for 1 minute, closing your eyes, feeling the breath entering and leaving your body, not trying to control it, just noticing it, and then silently telling your mind, now we focus. Not as a command, but an invitation, because this small ritual trains the mind to listen, to recognize transitions, and to settle more easily into attention. And over time, the mind begins to understand that focus is not a state of tension,
but a state of gentle clarity. You do not need to become someone else to focus better. You do not need a different personality, a stronger will, or a perfect routine. You simply need to become more present with who you already are, meeting yourself where you are rather than where you think you should be, and walking this path slowly with patience and kindness. Because the mind, like anything that has been hurried for too long, needs time to trust stillness again. And little by little, not all at once, not dramatically, but quietly and steadily, the mind learns how to stay.